Hey, Ron. We saw Taylor break down the huddle while we were out there today, and might have been some colorful language, and it seemed like the guys kind of enjoyed his message. Is there already sort of like a new galvanizing theme with this team with him taking over under center?
Not necessarily. I just think that that's who Taylor is, and that's kind of how the guys respond to who he is, and whether he broke it down or not, it's one of those things that we talk about. Anybody can lead, so it was his opportunity, so he stepped up.
As for the D-line, the rushing in the same lanes and sort of some of these simple errors, why do you think that is, especially with the group that's been here last year and is supposed to be one of your best units? Why do you think in week one they sort of forgot some of their fundamental things?
I think they were anxious. They wanted to make plays more so than anything else. And you watch the way they played, it's not like they got knocked out of it. It's not like they immediately jumped out of it. It's just they saw something, tried to make something happen. And part of it is the discipline of what we are, and that was something that we explained to them and just tried to get them to understand that, hey, the play doesn't care who makes it. You get an opportunity to make a play, make it. But don't try and create it, because if you do, that's what's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. And that's eventually what happened to us. And it wasn't just at that position. It was several of our positions.
Ron, when we talked to Scott about the game plan and Ryan Fitzpatrick's input, because of the fact he's a veteran who's been around, he listens to him to a degree and says, here's what works for me, here's what doesn't. What about for a guy like Taylor who doesn't have a ton of experience? How much input does he have in terms of whether it's plays or personnel on the field or things like that?
Well, I think Scott's going to listen to him. I think what will happen is, what most coaches do after each day, they go over the tape, they talk about what worked and what didn't work, what looked good and what didn't look good. And a lot of times one of the things that you always ask about too when you're putting game plans together, at least I know that's what I did, and I believe Scott does that because I know Norv did that, is you always ask the quarterback, what do you feel best with? I used to ask the defensive players, what do you guys like best? What do you feel like best? What do you communicate best? What do you do best? So you're going to get that. That's nothing new. It just, most quarterbacks and coordinators work very well together in terms of what they're going to do.
And not for Taylor specific, but with a guy like Ryan who has been around, you probably have a feel that, okay, he kind of knows what he's talking about. And Taylor has been a quarterback, but not necessarily at the NFL level a ton. When you have a younger quarterback or a more inexperienced quarterback, when do you kind of know that, okay, I can kind of trust their instinct here, that they kind of do have a good feel for what they do and what works for this team?
Well, I think it's just from what you've seen. We've seen Taylor do it, in 3 different situations. Last year, Carolina, and then what he did the other day was pretty impressive as well. So I think you're going to trust him enough to know what he likes and doesn't like. I think you're going to trust him to know what he thinks he can do well. I think that's where he is. I think that's where we are with him. And I'll say this too, when you have a young quarterback, one of the things that you do tend to do is, based on what you've seen, is you will tend to call what you think he does best, more so than anything else. And I think that's one of the things that, I appreciate about Scott, because what Scotty does really is he games plan, and then he does things that are best suited to the people he has on the field.
With Taylor, what do you think he learned maybe from Ryan Fitzpatrick, just being with him for a few months, that maybe can help him going forward? Well,
I think some of the things that, you watch how Ryan throws the ball, where he throws the ball to the receivers. I think that's one of the things that, you can really appreciate. Because very seldom did you ever see Ryan lead a receiver into something bad, especially in practice. He understood where to throw the ball or where the ball needed to be thrown, and I think that's something that all young quarterbacks learn from when they watch the veteran guys.
Where do you think he's made the biggest jump from when you had him in Carolina?
Well, I think just understanding the game even more so, his importance and the fact that he doesn't need to put himself in harm's way. I think that's one of the things, if you watch the way he played. He's learned to be patient, take what's given to him, and I think he has a real good feel for when he takes his shots too.
Ron, what do you like about the usage of McCain, Curl, and Landon Collins? What did you see as some of the highlights from the usage of the 3 of them, and what are some of the things that you feel like you guys can kind of get out of that trio in particular?
Well, I like the way they all work together and they all understand the game. Being able to roll guys in and keep guys as fresh as possible really can benefit you. I think when you watch when Cam comes in, because of Cam's versatility, you can watch him. He can play strong or free, and he has some ability to come down in as the nickel. He can run with a lot of the wide receivers. He can play on the tight ends. He has that kind of edge to him. When you watch McCain, you think Bobby's got a very good eye for the ball and communicates very well. And And then with Landon, you've got a very physical guy that some of the best things he does is down in the box. So, you have an opportunity to use all three guys and use their talents.
And then when I asked Nate Katzer about what could having a better impact in the punt return game do for the overall team, he said that, obviously it gives the team a spark, it gives them some momentum. I wanted to ask about DeAndre Carter. He had a couple of big punt returns. He had the big kickoff return. For you as the coach, where can this team go if you guys get that extra boost from your punt return or your kick return team?
Well, I think one of the things that you can do when your special teams are really rolling, whether it is punt or punt coverage or kickoff coverage, if you're in kickoff coverage or punt coverage and you can get them pinned down inside the 20, that really helps. It's hard to go 75, 85 yards consistently. And then on the inverse, if you can get the ball out around to midfield somewhere between the 35s, that's a good start for your offense. That's one less first down they have to get. And, and that creates opportunity, creates momentum. There's nothing more exciting than watching the ball get returned to midfield somewhere around the 50, and now your offense goes out with a little spark to them.
Hey, Ron. Daniel Jones is 4-0 in his career against this team and 2-0 since you've been here. What does he do well against this team, and what do you think has allowed him to have so much success?
Run. He runs well with the ball. He's a dynamic runner. He's a quarterback that can take advantage of that. One of the things that we can't do is, and expect to win is to have the turnovers like we did last year. We got to protect the football, be smart with the football, and take advantage of some of the opportunities we can create. So, then that's been it. I mean, he's got a good arm, strong arm quarterback who throws the ball well. It's just, we've got to keep him contained and keep him in the pocket.
Ron, with Sam early on the other day, obviously a tough matchup. Can you learn a lot more from, I guess, struggling as opposed to if he had maybe great success early on, maybe he doesn't learn as much from, I guess, a tough lesson and against an elite pass rusher?
Well, I thought Sam played well. I did, based on some of the things that you look at. Sure, there was pressures given up. Again, to your point, look at who he played against. And I thought he had some really good moments, and he'll learn from those things. Whether he has success or failure, he's going to learn. The one thing that did happen that, when you watch the tape, you study it, a couple times he got anxious and his technique broke down. He kind of reverted to some of the things that you saw on his college tape. And that's one of the things that, he's got to continue to work and trust in his technique. That's probably the biggest lesson he learned. Because when you watch the issues he had, a lot of it was caused because, he got anxious, he reverted, and that's one thing. It's the young guys are going to have to experience. The only thing that builds experience, obviously, is doing it. And, and I told you guys last year, we talk about in Carolina what we used to call 5,000 reps. And that's really what, you're looking for is the more and more opportunities you get, the more and more reps you get, the better you're going to become, the more second nature those habits will be. And the more consistent you will be as a player. And that's really what you're looking for from offensive linemen is you want to see guys play solid, consistent football and do it the way, they've been coached. And, with Sam, he got, like I said, got a little anxious, but, I most certainly wouldn't throw him to the wayside. I thought he had a good game. I thought he for a rookie coming up against one of the elite pass rushers in this league, I thought he held his own and did some good things. And, he is only going to get better, and that's the exciting thing for who he is.
Ron, you have such a unique regular season schedule. This is your only division game until December. Any extra significance, importance for this game because just the uniqueness of the schedule and how it's made up of backloaded with division games? Well,
partly because we're 0-1, partly because it is a division game, partly because we won't play another division game till December. So those are the importance. I mean, you don't want to go down 0-2 and then have to go to Buffalo and face a very difficult Buffalo football team. What you want to be able to do is go out and play well and win a football game. And it does a couple of things for you because it is a division game. But we have to go out and play our abilities, play to what we're capable of, and really play smarter than we did last week.
Do you get the sense, just judging by the players, watching them, talking to them, that they understand kind of the urgency and the significance of this game so early in the season?
Mm-hmm. I believe they do. I believe they understand that. In this world, you only get so many opportunities, and you only get so many that you can kind of let slip. After that, everything else is important. So every one of them is important.
You guys had a slow start offensively. I know you got a different quarterback in now, but slow starts offensively were a thing last year too. Anything you noticed or anything you emphasized coming into this one?
Well, I think the big thing is we just got to continue to work and get better at what we're doing. You know, we move the ball into certain situations, and then we have, you know, a couple of unforced errors, you know, more so than anything else, and that's on us. You know, we can't take away our opportunities. We can't make them more difficult than they are already. And that falls on us as a football team. We have to be smarter.
I had a question about Antonio Gibson's usage. You talked in the preseason about just wanting to expand his plate, and we saw it with the number of carries, but how much of that was just the flow of the game? You guys were in closer situations running the ball, or versus you think he's ready to handle that bigger load?
Well, I think he's ready to handle it, but it was also part of the flow of the game. You know, when the game's going to go that way, you know, that's what you can expect. You know, it could be a different set of circumstances this week, so we'll see what happens. You know, that's the hard thing about, you know, when you play in the preseason, you know, there really aren't the kind of consequences there are now. So you really don't get a chance to create an ebb and flow that tells you, hey, look, we can grind it out. Let's keep feeding them the ball. Or, you know, we got to open it up. You know, we're down. We got to score. You know, those are the things that you have to, you know, you don't get the opportunity to truly have until now. And so these first few weeks is really when you're discovering and learning and trying to understand. But while you're playing these first few games and trying to learn, you got to make hay. You got to win football games. It's that simple.
And following up on Andrew's question about Daniel Jones, he's had turnover issues kind of against the rest of the league, but you guys really haven't had that. Are there things that you guys can do better to try and force those turnovers that he's, or I guess how do you kind of do that? Or what?
Yeah, we just got to force them, create them. You know, I think first of all, one of the things you got to be able to do is keep him in the pocket. You know, because his athleticism and ability to run, he's dynamic. You know, and again, a guy that can throw on the run is also a guy you got to be concerned with. So we know, you know, based on some of the things we saw from last year, keeping him inside the pocket's important.
How quickly do you anticipate the defense fixing those subtleties, those inconsistencies that you mentioned yesterday?
Well, I expect them to be fixed now. I mean, to me, it was more of a matter of being disciplined, and that's the thing we talked about. The guys, you know, again, this is a, you know, this defense, the way it's, you know, it's designed, you know, it's about accountability. You know, you have a gap of assignment, you have a coverage assignment. You know, you have to do it. If not, and they find it, you know, we'll know, and that's, you know, that's part of it. And as I've always said before too, we also have to make sure we're putting players in the best position to have success too.
Your expectations are as high as they were. You know.
Yeah, they should be. There's no reason for it to change. I mean, for the most part, it's the same front. It's a good group of linebackers that can run, and we talk about being improved in speed. Yeah, I expect us to be better.
You talked about the young players and continuing to learn. No, you can't control injuries, obviously, but with all the quarterback changes, how do you continue to build consistency, continuity in the offense, and continue their development?
Well, I think one of the things is because of how we practice, you know, how we prepare. One of the things that we do is we roll guys in and out. You know, we make sure, especially during training camp, you know, that everybody gets an opportunity to work with a different group. If you're a third string guy, you know, we're going to play you with the twos. If you're a two, we're going to play you with the ones. I mean, that's the only way, you know, how guys get opportunities to find out, you know. And, you know, several years ago, we had a player that was, you know, we got out of Ohio State, an offensive lineman, and he was a third string guy, and, you know, and we did a bunch of one-on-one drills, and he looked terrible. And then through injuries, a couple of guys got hurt, and all of a sudden he got put with the first group. And also we realized he's not an individual. He plays better in that group. The guy ended up starting. The guy became an all-pro player and ended up signing a big contract. You know, unfortunately, he left for somebody else. But, you know, and he'll tell you the only reason is because he got an opportunity to show us what he could do. That's what we have to do during OTAs, mini camps, training camps. We got to be able to roll these guys in and find out. That's how you build the cohesiveness. That's why having Taylor come in, I'm not, you know, everybody says, wow, you're concerned. No, I'm not concerned because Taylor's done it with that group of guys. And the same thing with Kyle. Kyle's done it with those group of guys. Those guys know who they are. So for now, you know, there's confidence, but we'll see how things go on Thursday night.
It's with his injury. Can he still be in the meetings? Is he okay enough for that? And will that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He can be in the meeting and do all that stuff. I mean, he was there today. You know, getting his treatments and stuff like that. And you know, we'll continue and we'll go from that. You know, there is no time frame in terms of his return. You know, we will put him on injured reserve a little bit later. But right now there is no urgency in terms of time frame. That's one thing we won't do with injuries. We won't tell you guys will be back in a week or two. You know, because you never know how it is, and we don't want to put pressure on players. Okay.
Thanks, Coach.
Cool. Thank you, guys.